Because it's contractually obliged, I have to ask you about Gavin and Stacy. Because that last outing,
yes,
even you guys must have been blown away by the viewing figures and everything for that.
Yeah, it was. We were. I mean, obviously, there was appetite for some more Gavin and Stacey, and there has been for the last 10 years and more. But we had no idea that it would be received in that way. I mean, the viewing figures were astonishing, really, really. Extraordinary.
And I mean, is everyone just sitting on their hands now going, well, that did well? I mean, because normally success breeds more.
Yes, I think obviously the BBC would like more. James and Ruth have always said that they would only do more if they had a story and a reason to do it. And just because people want it is not enough of a reason to do it for them. They want to make sure that they have a story. And they don't want to let the piece down, really, and let the audiences down. They don't just want to do it for the sake of it. I can't say whether they are planning on doing more or not, because I genuinely don't know.
And also, all of you guys have gone on, so now trying to corral that cast is quite difficult, I imagine.
Yeah, it's quite a large ensemble and filled with very, very successful people. So, yes, I think getting everyone back together, it was difficult the last time, so, it'll be equally as difficult this time. That said, we all have an allegiance with the show, obviously, and it's like returning to an old family. So, we would all do it if we could. But James and Ruth very much want the script to be there and be right.
Yeah, I guess also an audience would just see through it. If it was a cynical, cashing in, people would just go, "Oh, yeah, this is."
I think so. Yeah, and I think that one of the reasons that it did so well in terms of figures and stuff is because it was actually a really good episode. As simple as that, you know. It wasn't just, as you say, a cynical exercise because people wanted it. It was genuinely a good story and a good episode, and one of the best episodes we've done, I think.
You get more freedom writing a novel because you don't have a word count. You've got a rough word count, but you don't have to. You can kind of go anywhere. Whereas when you're writing for screen, you've got to usually fit sort of a time for the slot that the show is going out on. You've got to consult with producers and directors and the broadcasters, that kind of thing. But you then also do get more collaboration. So you've got the solitary road of the novel writing compared to the collaboration road. So, there's pros and cons, as in most things in life.
These are proper books, aren't they? I mean, she's not messing about. 500 words here, 500 pages, rather.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. What is the one question you get asked most that I'm not going to ask you?
There are two. One is what happened on the fishing trip, and the other is there going to be any more Gavin and Stacey?
Right, I'm not going to ask you either of those.
Oh, thanks.
You're very welcome. You've been to Carfest before. You were awesome at Carfest.
I was. Oh, thank you.
Why don't you tell everybody what happened
at
Carfest one night?
Oh, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Rob Brydon was performing, and he went on as Uncle Bryn, and he asked, did he ask a member of the audience to come and sing Islands in the Stream with him? And then I kind of appeared behind him and as Nessa.
And the audience went the most nuts Carfest has ever gone, and it's already, it has a history of nuttiness anyway. Thanks for doing that.
It was such a joy, I can't tell you. It really, really was. The atmosphere was beautiful.
I don't know. I imagine I'll stay doing it for a little while. I think that's my hunch. But then at the same time, for us as well, for Julie, my wife and I, we have a greater question, which is, where do we, look, we're a long way from home, when we're doing the show, and there's people here on this glorious island that we miss every day, and there are questions, where do we want our kids to go to school? There's people getting older, that time is the key, and time with people, and all of those things. And all of those things will be factors which are far greater than, do I still want to carry on doing the show or not? It's a greater question than that, I think. It might be that every time it comes up that I think, God, no, there's still more I want to do in this particular space, you know. But then it might be that I think, you know, there's things I really miss about being in a play or writing, you know, sort of narrative TV and things like that. There's things I miss greatly, and muscles that I still enjoy using from time to time. But I wonder, we'll see really. I don't know. We'll sort of cross or burn that bridge when we get to it, you know.
When you first met him and you just wanted to meet him because
Yes.
you've been a fan.
Yeah.
And it was in a bar hotel in Reading?
It was after going to see him. I knew Julia Davis, and Julia and I had been in an improv group together. She was part of his live show. She was unknown, as was Simon Pegg, who was the other guy.
Yeah.
Unknown Simon Pegg, you know. And I'd arranged to go to Reading, to the Hexagon, to see the show. I'd said to Julia, right, I'll come and see you afterwards at the stage door. So I go to the stage door. She'd forgotten all about it. At the time, I was rather hurt. I now realise it's very easy to forget who's coming to see you after a show. I've done it myself. We go back to the hotel. There's Steve. Oh, wow. I meet him. I chat to him. I'm desperately trying to make a connection. You know, do you know, I know this guy. Do you know that guy? That was the first meeting. I had his attention until a willowy blonde wafted by. And he went...
And what was his name?
Oh, very good. He said, "Oh, I got to go," and off he went. And but that was enough. That was the beginning. And
You
then
gave him a tape, a videotape?
I gave him Julia. I'd made a tape of 4 characters. One of them was Keith Barrett, that then went on to be in Marion and Jeff.
So this is video, not audio?
It was video, yeah.
Right.
Because I'd been in. I couldn't get arrested. You know, I was getting little parts, tiny parts in things. Then
Unsurprisingly.
Unsurprisingly, exactly. Then I got a part out of the blue in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels as the traffic warden.
Yeah.
And I still get some people today who only know me from that. They're always Cockneys. They come up to me, they go, "It's a traffic warden."
Yeah.
I have done some other work, but if that's what you like, that's fine. I made a tape off the back of that and did 4 characters. Julia got it to Steve. He saw it. He liked it. And, you know, off we went.
The rest is history, and hopefully also in the future too. You're a great dad. You know, if you got any, not advice, but if you got any sort of experience, wisdom that you can pass on?
My father, because it had been done to him, was dominated by his father. As far as I'm concerned, the one thing you cannot do is dominate a child. That's it. It's a false it's a false agenda if you're doing that. You've got to be honest with kids. And I was very lucky because I started to repeat the performance with George, and George's mum, Linda, she just stopped me dead. And she said, "You start doing that, you're going to finish up with the same relationship with that boy as you have with your father. And I do not think you want that." Right? And it was like a great big bell went doing. Wow. And that was it. I just stopped and we just started to become friends.
How old was he then? How old
About
was
3.
About 3 years
It
old.
was
So
about
really
3.
early on she
Oh,
told
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was lucky because if it had gone on, that's it. Once you do it.
That's like the genie coming from the lamp
That's
saying,
it.
you know,
Yeah.
don't worry about the wishes. I'll tell you what you need, not what
That's
you
it.
want.
It really was.
Oh,
It was
my goodness me.
a very important moment in my life.
If not the most important.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. I cannot imagine life without the relationship I have with George in my life.
Because we all want to be our kid's best friend, you know, and it sometimes can end up that way, but not necessarily via the route that you want it to, or you think it might, perhaps.
No, and like the problem is, unless you are fathered properly as a bloke, you don't know how to be a father.
Yeah.
You've got to be fathered.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really. I suppose you can
Guided.
to a degree learn it from a book, but George and his mum turned me into a father.
Yeah. Wow.
And George more than anything.
That's so beautiful.